Hello everyone, this is the Mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today. I hope you are all doing well. I'm hopping on here really quickly because I wanted to talk about some of the feedback and responses I received about my video that I posted yesterday pertaining to Marcel, and Tiffany's conversation, which led to Louis having to defend her to the men. And a lot of you guys took issue with the fact that Marcel was there, which was perplexing to me because I didn't even see him as a threat. As I look back on this whole scene and this whole situation, I was trying to figure out why I was not as concerned about Marcel being there as some of the folks in my comment section. And I realized that I actually felt comforted with Marcel being there. Marcel, in my opinion, added some levity to the situation. We have all seen in the past that Marcel is a loose cannon. He has a bad temper. We saw this in seasons 2 and 3 the most in Love and Marriage Huntsville, where Marcel would have veins popping out of his neck, lunging towards Melody, all up in her face, right? Very intimidating and threatening and imposing towards her. And Marcel had to be the one to say, calm down, relax. I remember when they went to Las Vegas and Melody was basically saying that Marcel was messing with a side chick, whatever. And Marcel lunged at her. And Marcel went behind Marcel and pulled him away from Melody, saying, calm down. I remember in season 3 or 4, when Marcel and Melody were having this argument about the kids, and they were in the conference room at their old building, and they were planning on like a comeback group meeting, and at some point one of their children started crying when Marcel left, right, abruptly. The children started crying. Marcel asked Melody to come back outside. Melody came, got their daughter, and Marcel was the voice of reason. He was telling Marcel to stop. To me, Marcel is someone who diffuses drama. He may have got into altercations with Marcel before, scuffles, arguments, whatever. But Marcel is someone who I trust around a woman more than Marcel. I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I have had plenty of altercations with men. As a child, dealing with my siblings, dealing with classmates. As an adult, dealing with the boyfriends of my friends who were being abused by them, okay? Having to evade stalkers and sexual harassers in the workplace. And what I noticed is that in some of those situations, when I was in danger or when I was being threatened, there would be like another man hanging in the distance that I knew. That could have been a coworker or a friend or relative that was just within an earshot of what was going on, but they were not there fully, right? They were kind of, eavesdropping in a sense, but they were not involved in the situation. I realized that those men, because some of them told me even that this is what they were doing, those men that were all the way in the background were keeping an eye on me to make sure the situation did not get out of hand, okay? So even though I do not condone violence against women, I don't agree with it, I don't support it, okay? I don't make excuses for it. I learned at a very young age, being raised around boys. My father was, married to my mom for years, having male friends and male enemies. I learned at a very young age, if you talk about a man or a male, be prepared to deal with the consequences of your actions, okay? So there were times when I would try to protect my friends and my family from abusive boyfriends. Okay, and my friends or my family, they would go back to their boyfriend and tell them what they said, tell them what I said. And I'm now a target. I'm now in danger. I'm now being confronted by this man about what I said on behalf of my friend to get her out of a situation that was dangerous to her. Okay, I've dealt with this more than once, right? So what happened with Tiffany and Marcel and Martell to me was nothing. We've seen Martell treat Melody 10 times worse for far less. Melody would tell the truth about Marcel, and she was married to him for years, so she was entitled to express her opinion. Tiffany was attacking Sheree and Marcel behind his back. I think Marcel actually handled the situation relatively well. Marcel did too. I wouldn't be surprised, and I may be reaching here, but I would not be surprised if Marcel stepped in and he stayed to protect Tiffany potentially from Marcel potentially getting upset with her, because everybody knows that Marcel has a temper. Marcel knows this for sure because he's made jokes about it in the past. He was like, in the past, he was like, are you doing a Martell again? Are you acting like Martell again? We know how you can get, right? So Marcel has been the voice of reason for Martell. He can kind of calm him down. I would not be surprised if he stayed back in that situation to protect Tiffany, or not protect her, but to be a buffer, to diffuse the energy between Tiffany and Martell, because we saw Martell was getting more and more heated, and Martell has no problem getting in a woman's space. We saw what he did with Miss Wanda. We saw what he did with Melody. I wouldn't be surprised, and I may be giving Marcel too much credit, that he stayed behind just to make sure Tiffany was okay, which is why I didn't feel threatened by him, because Marcel is not a loose cannon like that. And like I said earlier, I'm happy Marcel was there, because Marcel is somebody who knows how to defuse and de-escalate. He's done it more than once in the past. He's been the voice of reason that Martell listens to, right? He's very cerebral. He's not as emotional as Martell. Marcel cracks jokes to put people at ease with him, okay? He joked about Miss Wanda, or he joked with Miss Wanda. He makes jokes to calm people down. He's not like a bully or an antagonist the way that Martell is. I think that Marcel stayed behind, honestly, because he was trying to look out for Tiffany, because Martell's a loose cannon. So a lot of people who don't like Marcel just because of, the history of the show, they don't want him there, period, without really considering the role that Marcel has played in the past among the cast members. And again, I would not have felt comfortable with Tiffany meeting with Martell by himself. I'm not saying that Martell did something to Tiffany in this particular scene, but Martell has a bad temper. And I would not be surprised, honestly, if Marcel stayed behind to protect or to make sure that the situation didn't get out of hand. Because I've had men do that for me. They weren't overt about it, and they didn't tell me beforehand what they were doing. But I noticed that some men sometimes, what they'll do is they'll like play the background when they know a woman's in danger. They won't be, upfront about it because they don't want to trigger the male who's antagonizing the woman, right? Marcel would not tell Martell, yeah, I'm gonna stay back because you are a loose cannon. I don't trust you. No, he'll say, let me stay back and see what's going on here. I honestly think that's the reason why he stayed behind, to listen to Martell and Tiffany's conversation. So even though, the conversation wasn't his business, people were more so upset about the fact that there were two men ganging up on Martell as if the two men are thugs. All black men are not thugs. I think Martell is more of a thug than Marcel is. And so for some people to prefer Martell, the thug, to be along with Tiffany more than Marcel, who's shown to be very level-headed, way more than Martell, is to me showing some form of bias against Marcel. We have to be more nuanced in our opinions about the cast members and about what these people do in general. A lot of times in our communities, we unintentionally propagate negative stereotypes about the men and women in our communities. Just because a man pulls a woman to the side and checks her for her bad behavior respectfully, through a conversation, asking questions. There's no threatening, there's no groping, there's no physical lunging at the woman, right? That doesn't mean that the man is wrong and the woman is automatically in danger. Some of us have had white male bosses who treated us worse than Martell and Marcel treated Tiffany, and we're still working for them. We don't mind our white bosses disrespecting us, but let two black men have a simple conversation with a woman. They were not threatening to her, in my opinion. I've seen and I know what it feels like to be in danger when you're involved with a man. Okay, again, we've seen the way Martell treated Melody in seasons 1, 2, and 3, and even 4. He can get very hostile. Okay, and he even approached Miss Wanda. He confronted her about the things that she said about his children. So while I don't disagree that Marcel shouldn't have been there and it wasn't his business, I'm actually glad he was. Because I think that Marcel was trying to make sure, and I'm reaching again, I could be reaching, but knowing how Martell has acted towards women in the past, like Miss Wanda, if you guys remember in season 3, Miss Wanda went to tell Melody, you can do better than him, you don't need to be, no, season 2, I'm sorry. You can do better than him, you don't need to be with him, talking about Martell within an earshot. Martell runs up and confronts Miss Wanda. A lot of men do that. A lot of men do that. This is why I said in the comment section that if you are a woman talking about a man in any capacity, especially if it's negative, you have to be prepared for the consequences of that. Hopefully the man won't punch you in your face. Hopefully he won't be so triggered that he loses control of himself. Hopefully he'll have a conversation with you about your being disrespectful. But I was taught as a kid, if you don't want a man to get in your face, stay out of a man's business. I learned that a long time ago. What Tiffany did was disrespectful to Martell. Yes, Martell is a blockheaded dildo. Yes, he's a narcissist. Yes, he's all those things. But Tiffany was bad-mouthing Martell to a third party and low-key attacking her too. So of course Martell's going to have a problem with that. Of course. He's a human being. This is why I also say that women should not put their hands on a man. They should not. No, it's not right for a man to put his hands on a woman. It's not at all. I don't condone that at all. I have zero tolerance for a man putting his hands on a woman. But a lot of women use that, oh, I'm a woman thing to get away with putting their hands on men who were not doing anything to them. These men are cowering. Please don't hurt me. You know, I don't want to fight. I talked about a story a few months ago where this woman shot her husband in the head in front of her children because he wasn't paying attention to her. Some women can be abusive too. Okay? Some women can be verbally abusive and some women can be physically abusive as well. It's not always the men. It does not make me a pick-me to acknowledge that Tiffany was wrong in this situation. I said all parties bear equal responsibility for what happened. That's what I said. I didn't say it was all Tiffany's fault. I didn't say it was all Martell's fault. I didn't say it was all Marcel's fault. But people only want to hear what they want to hear. Then they get triggered and call me a pick-me because I don't have a problem with a woman being called out for her bad behavior respectfully. Now, if they got in her face and yelled at her and cursed her out, I would have said, nah, y'all doing too much. But they were asking her, what did you say? Why did you say this? What were you thinking by saying this? And again, Marcel was there, in my opinion, for comic relief. I think he was there to diffuse the situation because Martell's the type to get really emotional and lose his temper. And Tiffany's there pregnant. And I honestly think that Marcel was there. Like I said, I could be wrong. I could be reaching. But I've had men do this for me in the past. And I didn't even know it. Right? They were kind of low-key protecting me. But they didn't want to say so or state so openly because they didn't want to offend the person that was confronting me. So they kind of stayed in the background to make sure that, you know, things didn't get out of hand. I've had this happen for me more than once. Because, you know, I have no problem speaking my mind to men or women. No problem. If I feel like you're doing something wrong, I have no problem calling you out on your shit, male or female. That's never been an issue for me since I was a little girl. And my mommy who listens to this channel, she knows what I'm talking about. I've got into many fights with both men and women for what I have said, defending other women, protecting other women, putting myself in harm's way on behalf of other women. I know that when you talk about a man, or when you make a man feel threatened, or you threaten a man's security, he can have a negative response to that. And you have to be prepared to deal with that as a woman. You have to. Or else don't say nothing at all. Do not say anything at all. Men are still men. Even though we have equal rights and we make money and all this other stuff, men are still physically stronger than women. Period. So unless you're prepared to deal with a physical altercation, be very careful with how you speak about a man. If you say what you want to say about anybody, you have to be prepared for a negative or unpleasant response. You can't just say what you want to say about a man or a woman. It doesn't work that way in the real world. It doesn't. It didn't work that way when I was a kid. So Tiffany, in my opinion, instigated this nonsense. And yes, production probably told her to do it, like I said a couple weeks ago, because the questions were very messy and sloppy for no reason. Okay, if you're going to start shit, make sure that you're not implicated in the mess, as I mentioned before. But yeah, I don't want us to treat all black men as if they're the boogeyman. We may not agree with everything a black man does. We may not even like him as a person. But to say that, you know, regardless of what you say and what you do, your very presence is a threat to me is one of the reasons why, you know, black men are treated as if they are the boogeyman, super predators in society. Yes, black men commit a lot of crime, but there are some innocent black men who are negatively stereotyped because we women and men of all races, we treat all black men as if they're menaces to society. As if they're menaces to society. I'm laughing at that comment because a couple days ago, I made a suggestion that, you know, Funky Dineva conduct an interview with Marcel and Melody. And somebody responded, no, he's a menace to society. I'm like, and I laughed. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. What did he do? I was laughing at the I would say ridiculousness of that statement because Funky Dineva is very intelligent. He's very logical. He may not like Melody, but I feel like he would put his feelings to the side for the sake of the conversation. He does not sell drugs. He doesn't hurt people. He's not a criminal. Like, how is he a menace to society? I didn't know that so many people didn't like him. People are repeating what he says, on his platform. So I didn't know that there was so much animosity towards Funky Dineva. I don't agree with it. I don't know what he did exactly to make people feel that way. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because a lot of us sometimes exaggerate. So we exaggerate the danger of situations when it comes to Black men. And sometimes we downplay what some Black women do in situations too. So there's an exaggeration and then there's downplay. And then it can go both ways, right? Sometimes Black women are perceived as masculine and angry and aggressive, and there is an exaggeration about our behavior, and then people downplay what Black men do as it relates to domestic violence and murder and crime and pedophilia and all this other stuff. So we have to analyze these situations in a case-by-case basis and apply some more nuance to our observations and our opinions about what's happening in our community. So yeah, I'm not here to attack anybody. I don't want to get into a verbal war with anyone because I have no problem doing this. I just don't want to do that. I don't have time for arguing back and forth all day. But I can make time if I need to. And I don't want to do that, right? So I have no problem with people offering their opinions. They're entitled to do that. That is what's up. This is why I leave my comment section open. I'm open to dialogue and discourse. Even if I don't agree with you, I think you have the right to speak your mind. I don't like just, saying something and then closing the comment section and say, deal with it. No, I have no problem with people offering their opinion. I love a healthy discourse. Healthy. When things get toxic and when people get disrespectful, I don't know what they expect me to do in response to that. Thank you for listening. I look forward to reading your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will speak to you soon.